Good evening. I'm Ahmed Jaffery, your host, and tonight I want to talk to you about the possible solution to an impending energy crisis, a controversy that has split the nation between environmentalists, energy tycoons, or perhaps even your next door neighbor. Natural gas is overabundant in the U.S. There are nearly 3 Saudi Arabia's worth of natural gas right here under our feet. In North Texas alone, tens of thousands of wells are tapping into the Barnett Shale using a new and revolutionary method called horizontal drilling. The controversies that surround this topic are mainly about its effect on the environment, especially the aquifers, or underground major sources of water that are drilled through and poisonous chemicals are pumped through. The chemicals that these companies employ are not necessarily properly regulated and have accidents in the past. This program seeks to find the facts about the issue and present both sides equally.
Now you may be wondering, how exactly is natural gas extracted from the shale? Well, it's gone through a process of hydraulic fracturing. At the site of the natural gas recovery, a vertical well is drilled approximately 6,000 feet straight down into the ground through several layers of earth and rock until the shale layer is reached. While drilling the well, the drill is kept cool and lubricated by pumping a pressurized mud solution down through the drilling pipe, through the drill head, and out of the 3 jets. This also maintains the wellbore stability and removes the cutting up and out of the well. Once the drill reaches the level at which the shale is located, the drill changes direction and the hole is drilled horizontally approximate 1,000 to 3,000 feet into the shale. When the drilling is complete, the mud solution and cuttings are sucked out of the hole and the drill is removed. Steel casing is then fed down the entire length of the well. The casing is then secured in place by cement that is pumped down through the pipe and up and outside the casing. The cement is pumped under pressure to the end of the pipe so that there is no cement inside the casing. The drill is then sent down into the casing where it drills through cement and into the shale. Once again, the mud solution and cuttings are sucked up and out of the well and the drill is removed. A perforated pipe gun is then sent down and out of the casing and into the newly drilled section of this well. Explosives are then fired from the gun through the perforations and into the shale. Fracturing the fluid, primarily a mixture of water and sand, is then pumped in from the surface down into the wellbore and into the fractures. The fractures then crack, expand, and branch out, allowing the natural gas to be extracted more easily. The fluid is then pumped out and the fracturing gun is removed in reverse down the wellbore. In a multi-stage fracturing, a plug is installed before the entrance of the recently fractured area and the process is then repeated. The fracturing and plugging process are repeated throughout the entire length of the wellbore to maximize potential natural gas extraction efficiency. Once all the fractures are completed, the plugs are drilled out and the natural gas is able to flow, allowing for extraction. Natural gas is then pumped up through the wellbore to the surface facility for processing, as we see in this picture. Considering all this info, let us take into consideration all the advantages of natural gas extraction from shale. The U.S. already uses 23% of its total energy output from natural gas. In addition to this, there are many environmental benefits. It is the cleanest burning fossil fuel compared to coal and oil. It produces virtually no sulfur emissions, has no solid waste, and it produces far less nitrogen oxide as well as significantly less amounts of CO2 than oil or coal. In addition to this, it has many economic benefits because it can be found almost everywhere in the United States, as we see in this map. On this graph, we see that there are many economic benefits in terms of job impact. It creates hundreds of thousands of jobs in the next 20-30 years. In addition to this, natural gas plants are much cheaper to build than other energy plants. It only costs half amount as coal plants per megawatt, 1/3 the cost of nuclear plants per megawatt, and 1/5 the cost of onshore windmills per megawatt. There is no reason, considering all these economic benefits and environmental benefits compared to oil and coal, that we should not produce natural gas from shale. Now that we've heard many advantages, let's talk to a professional and see what he thinks on natural gas expansion.
Educational background in petroleum engineering, and I've been working with Regal Energy for the past 10 years. In that time, I've been working primarily with drilling and reservoir simulation aspects of natural gas extraction.
Oh, that's great. So what exactly is reservoir simulation?
Good question. Well, basically, it involves the employment of computer software that simulates the flow of fluids such as gases. In this case, the natural gas and or oil that flows through flows through porous rock. It's my job to make sure that the company makes a worthwhile investment and proceeds with safety while drilling, especially before we even start to drill.
So you have to keep in mind the flow of gas to make sure it doesn't flow into an aquifer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My advice to Regal in particular must bear in mind that we wish to evade lawsuits and stay within EPA regulations within our drilling procedures.
So what are the risks that you face when extracting gas in regards to the aquifers and water pollution?
Well, as long as we use proper methods that are in accordance with environmental regulation from the government, there's generally no chance that fracking liquids or other fluids we use in our systems should contaminate the aquifer water. The layers of casing that are put down within the fracking system are meant to seal the drill from leaking into the surrounding rock. Me and my team and the layers of concrete and steel that we put down ensure that there will be no environmental impacts.
What is the number one risk that your team deals with?
Honestly, it's got to be the part that we don't even deal with. What the company does with leftover fracking material and the waste above ground generally leads to the most risk of pollution.
While there are environmental and economic advantages, there are still many disadvantages. This includes the unknowns of the chemicals used and the fact that the industry is not heavily regulated and that the occasional natural gas accidents actually occur. Natural gas extraction requires the drilling through aquifers, meaning there's a potential for contamination when the fracking fluid is pumped through. Not only does this process need nearly 1 to 5 million gallons of water, which cuts into the water supply of an area that is ravaged with droughts anyway, but the fracking liquid is unable to be recycled in the water cycle due to the inability to remove the toxins. According to Dallas News, environmentalists say that there is not enough regulations on the fracking process at all. There are only assurances by the companies that there hasn't been any contamination. What happens above ground leaves even more room for pollution. In fact, in the past 1 year, there have been multiple natural gas accidents. In April 2011, there was an accident in Pennsylvania where the fracking material spilled into a local creek nearby, which flows into Susquehanna River. These chemicals in these fracking fluids are cancerous and extremely dangerous, which has made the area's drinking water non-potable. One of the problems that face the safety of those who are affected by natural gas drilling is the Halliburton loophole, which allows the industry from releasing information which is contained in the fracking fluid. The problem with the loophole is that it allows companies to hide behind legislation and bypass regulations that would normally restrict other industries to tighter environmental regulations that aim to ensure safety for everyone. As we see in this graph, as I said earlier, petroleum and natural gas may cause less initial direct emissions, but the indirect emissions as well as the methane leaks are extremely high and even higher than coal. And so it's extremely misleading when people tell you that it causes less emissions. High school chemistry teacher and see his thoughts on natural gas extraction.
Originally, the natural gas was up higher in sandstone. They got most of that. I grew up in a state that made most of its electricity from natural gas. It was really convenient, clean, and the coal is dirty, and that's what we're using now. And so drilling down 2 miles to get to sources of natural gas, I think it's a good plan. It's just, is it an engineering possibility without devastating the earth? It seems that it is, but it can have repercussions if things go wrong. So I'm for doing it. I would like to make the companies that do it wrong or pollute the aquifers to be accountable. Right now they're not.
So you were talking about the devastation of the earth and polluting the aquifers and stuff. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, as they go down, they go through aquifers with their drilling casings, and they put cement around it. And if they do it right, it seems to work, but it appears that there have been a few instances where that was done wrong, and we have some disastrous consequences.
Do you think that it's just a short-term?
Oh yes, it's short-term.
Short-term for gas?
What do we still need to do? We need alternatives, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I'm for putting solar panels in every house. You know, I know that it's expensive, but if you were to build enough of them, that volume, you would decrease the cost tremendously. If you gave people a tax credit for doing that, if you helped them put them on their house, and then every time the sun was out, you would be using the electricity, but you'd probably make more than you'd use, and you'd end up putting some back into the system.
Would you say dependency on natural gas might prolong the development in these alternative energy
I
sources?
think depending on it is not a good idea, yes.
So you would probably say having development and dependency on, or a larger dependency on natural gas is the way that we should go.
We need to use what we have,
Use what we have.
but I would hate to see us depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not looking down the road. It's a good fix for the immediate problem, but it's not a good fix for your kids.
Right. One last point, but the fracking material, after it's being used, do you know exactly how they dispose of
No,
it?
it's kind of a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, it does seem like a mystery.
Yeah, and it's a mystery what it is. And obviously a lot of it, even though it's very dilute, some things like DDT can be very dilute and very dangerous. And so it'd be nice if they were more forthcoming with what the materials are.
It seems what they do after the drilling seems to be the major concerns.
Yeah, I think in some places they actually have wells they put that into that's not supposed to be near the groundwater. I don't know that I just like the idea of pumping liquids per se. They need to be embedded in something. I remember hearing about using like glass, like marbles, and putting stuff in there and then putting them down there.
Right, yeah.
So that kind of a double safety thing. I don't like the idea of just pumping polluted stuff in the earth. I think that's stupid. Seems like raping the earth, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, I think that's all we need. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Overall, natural gas and hydraulic fracturing can be extremely dangerous if not done properly. As we see in this picture, natural gas can cause extremely large environmental disasters as well as economic disasters as well as health effects. The health effects can be extremely dangerous because hydraulic fracking fluids can come into our water aquifers and then affect our drinking water. We need to be extremely careful when dealing with such large issues, and both pros and cons need to be looked at in terms of economic benefits, environmental effects, and health effects. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and I hope you make the correct decision.
Oh wait, not already. I get rid of the keyboard. Oh, okay. After extensive and thorough investigation and research, we have conveyed the pros and cons to the upcoming energy source of natural gas. However, it's up to you, the public, to make the ultimate judgment and decisions regarding the future of America's energy. Can it be the next solution after fossil fuels? What regulations and methods should be implemented in the natural gas industry? How will natural gas influence future generations? These questions will continue to be asked in the near future, and it's best to present them and prepare for them now, in the present. Thank you for your time, and on behalf of the Coppell High School Environmental Systems class, good night.